Welcome back to I Need a Coach, where we interview top coaches, experts, authors, and speakers, hear their stories of success, who they help, how they help them, and give you some ideas on building your business. My name's Adam Packard. I'm the host. And for the last 7 years, we've helped over 500 coaches, consultants with their lead gen business development strategies to help them generate more business. Today, I have a special guest, Alessa Neeck. Alessa has an interesting story. 20 years as a Broadway star. She starred in Cinderella and then became a presentation and communications coach. And the fun thing is she's actually an introvert, just like me. So her program is called The Fearless Introvert, and she's going to give you some ideas and tips on how to present and communicate more effectively and more authentically. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back to I Need a Coach. I'm your host, Adam Packard, and with me today is Alessa Neeck. Alessa, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So you and I connected a few weeks ago, had a great conversation. You told me your background and history and story, and it was really fascinating. And I'm always looking for interesting guests for the show. So tell us a little bit more about your background and kind of how you got into coaching, but start with your experience on Broadway.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an executive presentation communication coach. I really specialize in helping introverts get out of their own fear-based mindset so they can be impactful communicators and speakers. And as you said, my journey began on Broadway. I spent the first 15 years of my career acting, singing, dancing on a Broadway stage. And I had a really wonderful trajectory. And I was having the time of my life working with great legends, Julie Andrews, Steve Martin, incredible icons in the industry. And I was so happy, yet it was really frustrating for me because I really had an immense fear of being in the spotlight. And as you can imagine, that's a real detriment to being a successful performer, especially because I focused on stage work. Camera stuff is awesome, but you have different takes. There's not as much pressure on every take. If you mess up, you go back. So you're able to really work your nerves out, when you're doing TV shows or doing indie films or something like that. When it comes to being on stage in Broadway, you're in front of 2,000 people night after night, having to consistently deliver, consistently hold that bar really high. And my real breakthrough, and when I started really focusing on the mindset behind being an impactful communicator, came when I was about to star on Broadway as Cinderella for the very first time. There were 2,000 people in the audience. I could hear the 30-piece orchestra swelling. We had a 40-piece cast. It was the pinnacle of my success. It is what I dreamed about, what I spent the past 15 years, getting ready for. I was so excited, and I had sacrificed a lot. My social life completely. Any fun. It was really up every morning. It was the first thing I thought about. Rehearsal all day, performing all night, and it was a cycle. And I was so thrilled, and I was waiting in the wings. And when I say I don't think I've ever worked so hard on anything in my life in terms of, putting in the time and effort. And I was so there, and I was ready to walk on stage for the first time. And I had a full-blown panic attack. I had tunnel vision. My palms got sweaty. I get so nervous just thinking about it. My heart was racing, and I thought, oh, crap. I can't believe my body is betraying me. I can't believe my mind is going there. I've put in too much work to do this. And the good news was, because I'd had these tendencies, I did put in the work beforehand. I did a 12-week meditation course that I started implementing. Yoga is a huge part of my life. Deep breathing, box breathing, all the things that they tell you to do, what Navy SEALs use when they're trying to regulate their nervous system. So I had all of these techniques, but I never had to put them into play to such a crazy degree before. And I did. I took a minute. I was able to recenter myself. I went on stage. I made it through, and I thrived. But I realized then and there that this was more than just, a one-time thing. This was going to be my life. So I had to learn how to regulate my emotions, regulate my fears on a daily basis so I could really succeed. Because at that point, it's not about just, getting through. It's about thriving if you want to be successful. And I really developed such a passion for being able to do this work. I started working with friends, with family, and then I eventually got my way into working with an executive career coaching firm where I really focused on mindset. I focused on how we're able to reprogram our thoughts, our conditioned beliefs, our behaviors, build new healthy habits, and really allow ourselves to take the time to integrate these new habits into our daily lives so that we are successful, not only going into a situation, but as a real introvert. A lot of times I can be as prepared as I possibly can, and I was in that pivotal moment. But when the moment actually happens, we fight, flight, or freeze, or we develop our imposter syndrome, and then we're stuck figuring out, okay, in this moment, how do I snap out of it? How do I reframe my focus so I can be successful? So I don't let the fear and the anxiety and the panic and the palm sweats get in the way of what I'm trying to communicate. So that was my journey. I loved working for this executive career coach. I've since the past 2 years built out my own coaching program, and I work one-on-one with mostly executives, looking to up their leadership game. And a lot of times it's the same thing. It's all here. And that's why again, a lot of what I do is so focused on the mental aspect, because I firmly believe if you can really get in charge of those feelings, if you can flip the switch, then you're able to really be successful as a communicator, as a speaker.
Oh, that's awesome. We were joking before we got on here that we're both introverts and we're doing a podcast together, right? It's just like the opposite of what we're typically known for. But I just want to hear, do you have any, first of all, going on stage in front of 2,000 people as Cinderella, that must have been, we're laughing about it now, but that must have been absolutely terrifying.
It was
just like that experience, but
it was absolutely terrifying. And what was crazy about that part specifically is there were so many things in the moment that could go wrong. Specifically, running down a staircase with a shoe half on my toe so that I can make sure to lose it at the very last step before the prince comes to, little things, all of the costume changes, all the magic that, the little girls are coming, to see the show for happened in front of the audience. Levies and strings and pulling and, transforming from one gown to another was all in the moment on stage. So not only is it, okay, I have to stay present, as an acting partner, as a scene partner, make sure I vocally remember everything I'm doing, but it was moreover, okay, there's so many things that could go wrong. So many things that I could mess up. And, it's in the moment, some of those things you have to really just go with. One time I went on and we had this one dress that was rigged to become another. So it was, you had all of these cords and I was pulled up, and basically you pull one cord and everything explodes and it turns into another gown. But in the moment I was actually in a real confident mood. I was in everything and I was about to step on stage. I took a really deep breath, and on my first step out, everything started to tear apart. And so I had to, in that moment, decide, okay, I can't do any of the blocking. I can't walk around. I'm going to have to curl in on myself on the ground and do the whole scene completely different. I have to switch it up. And luckily it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. But it's those things that can throw you in the moment. You never know what's going to come at you. So you have to be malleable, and you have to have that ability to really adapt in that moment to external pressure, to fear, because I always say it's usually not what you're worried about that winds up biting you in the butt. It's something else that comes out of nowhere. I never thought in a million years that would be the thing that was, a downfall or something to worry about. So yeah, it was terrifying. It was exhilarating. But why I love teaching what I teach as well is there's nothing more gratifying than getting out the other end and knowing you accomplished what you accomplished. And that's what I hate to see introverts be stuck in their cave, not going out, not impacting the world with their great ideas because they're so fearful of taking that first step. It's always better on the other side. It's just about building the confidence to really be able to show up for yourself first and foremost, to be able to get out there.
So what is that first step? As an introvert myself, I have all these ideas, and some I execute, some I don't. But I'm always a big believer of do what you don't feel like doing, and you'll feel better, kind of thing, right? Like life begins at the end of your comfort zone. You've heard that before. So what's like a first step? I guess how do you start the process? I'm an introvert. Get me out of my shell. I think I do a pretty good job of that, but at the same time, I'm you said I'm in my bubble. I'm in my office, right? This is kind of my world, and I can protect this area. So how do you kind of get that process started with someone? What's that first step look like?
Sure. For me, it's all about being able to own your own authenticity, understanding what your strengths are, understanding what your weaknesses are, and understanding where the fear comes in and how it manifests. Is it a physical reaction like mine? I get panic attacks. That's mine manifests. Even if I feel mentally prepared, my body gives me away time and time again. It drives me absolutely bonkers. But some people don't. Some people just retreat in on themselves. They, again, like you said, they stay in the cave, they stay in their bubble. So I really try to identify first and foremost, okay, where is the fear coming from? How is it manifesting? What in your background triggered this, and what is triggering it now? Because a lot of times it's a past moment. It's something that happened in the past, and it could only be once, but that's enough. If you have a negative connotation or reaction to something that strongly, it'll really stay with you. So I really want to identify and unpack all of that first. And then it's about really acknowledging what habits you do on a daily basis to continue the negative pattern, and how can we flip the switch to integrate healthy new habits, new conditioned beliefs that can change it. I always say, we think 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. And what we tell ourselves is so much more impactful than what we communicate to others, because it really creates our sense of reality. It talks to our, unconscious mind. It works 24/7. And what we think about ourselves is what we really wind up believing in the end. So we either set ourselves up for success or failure based on those beliefs. And once we really unpack all that, then we can understand, okay, now we have the ground rules. We have, a place to start. How can then we flip the switch, to really engage with the world more authentically, more confidently? And how can we really connect to the people around us that are most important to have those connections with? And I talk a lot about a concept I call connected awareness, that it's not about, especially when it comes to speaking, it's not about just speaking. It's not about just getting your point across. It's not about you. It's about who you're connecting with and how to engage with them on such a level that they really hear what you're saying. Because if you have that barrier up, and a lot of folks think that, okay, if I put on armor, if I pretend to be confident, if I really close myself off, it'll protect me. And yeah, it might protect you, but your idea isn't going to hit home. You're not going to be able to have that real connection, whether it's your boss, even your spouse or your kids. You have to be willing to be vulnerable and show up. And in that vulnerability, you're authentic and you're able to really have that two-way street of connection and of impact. So that's a bunch of different things that I like to speak to. But again, it's about starting from a place of authenticity, unpacking everything in the mind, and then being able to show up vulnerably in the moment with whoever you're trying to communicate with.
So let me ask you this. And I'm a big believer in just be yourself and be authentic. Yeah. And I think authentic was like the 2023 keyword.
It was.
Right?
It was. Yes, it was.
Yeah. Be genuine. Be authentic. Be real. Yeah. And again, we use those terms too because with the work we do, it's important to just be yourself and to stand out. So how do you balance being yourself and being authentic with trying to please people, saying the right thing? I mean, because not everybody's going to connect with you. Your authentic self and you being genuine might not be someone's cup of tea. So if someone's in a corporate space, there's a balance between being genuine and authentic, but also making sure you say and do the right thing. So how do you kind of, cross that chasm?
Yeah, I think with that, it really has to do with understanding boundaries, which is a really important thing actually for an introvert specifically, because a lot of us are pleasers. Extroverts are as well. But when it comes to understanding your own boundaries, understanding communication boundaries, and then understanding what types of communicators you're really speaking to. I think that type of work is really, really helpful, because a lot of times I'll speak with an introvert who is more kinesthetic. They're very slow spoken. They think very deeply, but they take their time between their words. They really mean what they say. If their boss is a very visual oriented, deep profile, he's going to come out of the gate, raring to go, nice and loud, really dynamic, really fast. Those types of communication styles are never going to meet because they're too far apart. So how do we, as an introverted, community, level up our energy a little bit more to try to meet someone halfway. And it's not about not being ourselves. It's about, okay, this is the person I'm interacting with. What is their communication style? How can I try to up? And usually it's just a little bit of an energy shift. How can I be a little more energetic? Or for introverts, I've found because we're deep thinkers and because we have anxiety in the moment, sometimes our thoughts come to us, but then our nerves get in the way and we go on tangents. We're not linear speakers. And for, as an employee, if you're a little bit tangential, your boss is very direct, he's going to, or she is going to want it to be very direct. Otherwise, you're not going to get the same level of appreciation. You're not going to get your idea to the right level. So not only is it about understanding communication style, it's about then, okay, how do I also tailor my message or what I'm trying to communicate to this style? A lot of times even in my own language, I'm very flowery. I use a lot. I speak to a lot of things and I have to be more direct. So in my email correspondence with a very, D-oriented personality, it's about, okay, how can I make this short and sweet? Let's compact the idea. Let's make it really strong and let's get out there. And, with the extroverts I work with and with, more deep personalities, if conversely, they have a boss who's very kinesthetic, who's very deep thinking, then we kind of reverse it. So it is really about that balance of finding that communication balance with your audience.
That's awesome. So in the work that you do with the people that you help, are there some, and I'm just going to assume this, you seem like the type of person that has like this awesome morning routine, probably an evening routine. You have kind of your structure, and am I right? Yeah, you probably have something you do every single day. Is some of that incorporated into what you do? And are there some foundational things that kind of help people with this process, aside from obviously the individual work, but are there some like core fundamental things that they should be doing daily, whether it's breath work or meditation, or what does your morning routine look like? And how do you try to push that on your clients? Because they probably need some help with that too.
Absolutely. So I have usually about a 20-minute morning routine. It starts with you never look at your phone or do anything media-oriented, check an email, nothing until the 20 minutes are up. I know. It's really, really hard, and I struggle with it. Sometimes I'll just check and make sure, my mother's across the country. I'll make sure I didn't get a text or something, catastrophic. I don't have to call anyone back. I have my 5-minute journal on my nightstand. And I start by, taking a nice big stretch, taking a nice deep breath, and I journal for about 5 minutes. Then I get up, I go downstairs. Counter to what you should do, I have a little bit of coffee because I'm a total zombie if I don't have a little bit of caffeine in the morning. And I sit and I meditate usually for 20 minutes. I've been a practitioner of Ziva meditation for over 10 years now. It's a practice of meditating with a mantra 20 minutes twice a day. And I start with that. It really centers me. Sometimes if I'm really struggling, I focus on doing body scans, starting from head, to toe, tensing and relaxing, feeling where the tension is. Or I love box breathing. I spoke to this earlier. It's the technique that Navy SEALs use to regulate their nervous system. It gets you out of fight or flight and it allows you to remain present in the moment. 4 breaths in through the nose, hold for 4 at the top, 4 breaths out the nose and holding 4. And I usually do this for about 2 to 3 minutes to really center into my body. And then if I need extra help, I'm also a certified yoga instructor. Take about 5 to 10 minutes. And I jump into just some sun salutations, a little cow cat, just something to center in my body. That's what I try to do. If I would be lying if I said I was successful every morning. I try to do it. It really helps. First and foremost, I think it allows you to take stock of how you feel in your body, in your brain, in the moment before anything else, any other outside stimuli comes and messes with you, comes and puts additional stress on your plate, elevates that so that you're working to catch up. That is one of the most important things that I have found. If you can digitally detox and not have to start your day feeling like you're catching up, that is the greatest thing. And conversely, at night, doing 5 minutes of journaling at night, getting to bed a little bit quicker than you might want to, just so you have the good night's sleep to be able to wake up when the alarm goes off, as opposed to snoozing for 10 to 15 minutes. Then you're never going to get through your 20-minute routine, let alone a 5-minute routine. So it's about trying to maintain that regulation. And in doing so, it really helps, allow your own body and own brain to take a second before, again, the outside world comes at you with everything, and just, breathe your center, your truth every morning.
Yeah, that's awesome. So talking about breath work, have you done the cold plunge yet?
Oh, well, no, I try to do the freezing cold showers, the Wim Hof.
Oh, that's even worse. Showers.
It's awful. I'm really a baby with cold. I don't know what my problem is, but it's like a physical recoil. About 2 years ago, we do have a hot tub in a very cold pool that's not heated. So I tried to do the hot tub for 10 minutes and jump in the pool. I was successful for about
that's even worse because it's going to be even colder, right?
Well, but then you're a little overheated to begin with, so it's not as bad jumping in. But I have not been truly successful with it. I would love to. It's an incredible feeling. I mean, having those endorphins, having all of that, sensation is really amazing. I'm just a baby, but I have to get better about it.
Yeah, I tried it. I tell you, I have a friend that had turned a freezer into a giant cold plunge, and he opened it up, and it's like this giant block of ice. Yeah, and he's like, "Just get in," and I get in, and you literally can't catch your breath. You're just trying to, you're just trying to breathe. I'm just like, dude, I'm like just freaking out, right? But you get out, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. But yeah, and I know people do them every day. I need to start doing it because we have a freezing cold pool right now too. But that because you'll only focus on one thing. All you gotta do is breathe. That's all you gotta do, right? So let's dive into some business stuff. So obviously we're both in super competitive fields. And I always like to ask the question, how do you stand out? How do you promote yourself? How do you differentiate from other coaches? Because there are probably people that do something similar to you, but obviously with your background and your skill set's unique. So how do you differentiate in a very competitive world of coaching and tell us how you get some of your clients?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing for coaches, it's super, super hard. I'd be lying if I said it was an easy, unsaturated market, but it's really saturated. So I think finding really what that niche is, that you have that extra in that other people don't. A lot of presentation coaches are extroverts because it's not a comfortable thing to do as an introvert. It's uncomfortable for me. I fight past my own insecurities, my own imposter syndrome, my own, want to just type on the computer and read a book and not interface with people. So I find that angle for me has really worked to connect with clients because it's something that I haven't seen a lot of out there. Also, I see folks really try to teach communication from a outside in perspective in terms of diction, in terms of resonance, in terms of oddly, all the techniques I learned for, 2 decades as an actor, it's all super helpful. But if you're actually struggling with a mental block towards communication or you have a real fear, that's not going to do anything. It's going to maybe, again, put up a wall temporarily to make you feel a little more comfortable in the moment. It's never going to address the real issue and allow you to actually continuously be a better communicator, be a better speaker. That's where all the mindset stuff really comes into play. I'm an empowerment and motivational coach. That is what I was trained in. That's what my certification's in. And I do some holistic stuff as well. Again, I sometimes incorporate yoga poses. I incorporate breathing. It's all for me about recalibrating, the mindset. So for me, it was about, okay, not only what is my background and what do I know how to teach and what do I love to teach to people, how does my unique perspective really come into play? And how can I really connect, even if it's a smaller audience, more deeply than be a more generic coach to many people? I could just teach mindset. I could just teach networking. I could just, I've done all of it. It's with all my clients, but it's about, okay, how can I really specify so that I can connect deeper, even if it's with fewer people? That has been one of my techniques that I really used when I started out, is really narrowing focus. And I think that coaches, up and coming coaches can really benefit from that because, again, we have such an oversaturated market. There's really a need, and there's a need for everything. So it's about finding your own unique gifts and how you can market them in a smart way. I do the typical. I think, for me, because I work a lot with executives, LinkedIn is my number one platform because it gives credential, it's one of those things, but really posting across everything, all media is important. Podcasts are amazing because you get yourself out to a different audience. And a lot of times, I find with, lead generation, JV marketing with other coaches who are similar, but maybe don't provide your exact service, that's super, super impactful because then, you're able to be that add-on if you're starting off and you don't have your own clientele base, you don't have hundreds or thousands of people on your email marketing list, you have the ability to still provide service with someone who already has real credibility in the market. And that is, I think, some of the best things. Getting testimonials, I think, is one of the most undervalued but impactful things any new coach can do, because having those testimonials is all about social proof. And that's, no one will trust someone who doesn't have testimonials, who doesn't have people they've worked with previous. It doesn't mean you're not an insane coach. It just means the social proof isn't there. So having that social proof across platforms, I think, is super important. And I believe firmly in the power of referrals. So if you not only deliver, but you over deliver, give a client an extra 30 minutes when it should be just an hour. And I'm not saying that to a point where you're running yourself ragged, but always making sure to show up in a way that over delivers what the expectation is. That is the best way towards referrals. And referrals are the bread and butter of my business, of why I retain clients. It's because I want to serve a community and I want them to know that I will show up for you. And not only will I show up for you, I will give you my A-level best no matter what the circumstance. So that's kind of my process, what I think in terms of what's really helpful for lead gen.
That's awesome. No, this has been great. I appreciate it. So now's your chance to shine and share how people can find you if they want to connect and learn more about your work or connect with you on LinkedIn. So the floor is yours to promote away.
Awesome. So Alessa Neeck, ALESSA NEECK, Alessa Neeck on Instagram, on TikTok, Alessa Neeck Coaching, on all the things, truly. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and alessaneeckcoaching.com. If you want to go to the fearlessintrovert.com, that is my program, the Fearless Introverts Guide to Powerful Communication. And that's where you can go check some of that stuff out. But I always say go to alessaneeckcoaching.com or hop on to LinkedIn and connect with me. I have 10,000 followers. We can, chat about stuff, DM me. And I also do Q&As live on LinkedIn every 2 weeks. And if you want to follow me, you'll get access to those. There are truly no strings attached. It's all about really understanding from your perspective what you're facing. So I always ask folks to DM me the week previous some questions they'd like answered. It's usually 20 to 30 minutes, short and sweet, just so you can get your questions answered. I can also stay in touch with what folks are really experiencing out there. And it's great for me too. It's my little way to give back and to serve a greater community. But yeah, get in touch. I'm happy to always, chat and serve you. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, it's so good to reconnect and have this call. I was looking forward to it with your background and skill set. And thanks for coming on the show. And we'll look forward to reconnecting with you in the future.
Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of I Need a Coach. If you've made it this far, I genuinely appreciate your dedication. Putting this podcast together takes a lot of time and energy. In return, we only ask one thing, which is if you could please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This helps our show get in front of more people so we can help more people. This is Adam Packard signing off. Keep coaching, keep thriving, and see you in the next episode.